Hey, we are back on the show and you're joined by Otis Kirk, the newest member of the Pig Trail Nation team. Otis, first of all, congrats.
Great to be here,
for joining the team.
It truly is great to be here.
Yeah, and you've obviously covered the Razorbacks a long time, and for more info on your bio, all you got to do is go to hogville.net. But Otis, other than getting into the Lakers of the '80s, which you loved, Byron Scott, Magic, all those guys, because that was a team I liked, several of those teams. We're talking Razorback football in particular here, and a lot of the commitments here. In fact, Arkansas got 3 commitments in one day from this past week. So linebacker Zack Simoes, here's a kid who originally had committed to Cal. What about his process, and why do you think he chose Arkansas?
I think he chose Arkansas. I think Chavis and everybody, all the coaches made a good impression on him, emphasized to him that he can play pretty early at Arkansas. He's a taller linebacker, and that's one thing they're doing on defense is trying to get taller guys, and you can put the weight on those guys. He's a guy that can come in and make a quick impact. You've got Dre Greenlaw is a senior, Dijon is a junior, so you've got some guys that will be and may be leaving after this year, so you need some linebackers to come in, and he's a guy that can do that and play early in his career.
Let's talk about safety and Miles Brooks, because this is a kid also out of Texas, and Miles looks like a kid who brings a lot of size to the table, but he's also very agile, right?
Yeah, he is. He's very active. He's a guy that can make tackles in open field. That's what you want. He plays well in space, and that's what you want from a defensive player, any defensive player, but especially the safety, because a lot of times they're the last line of defense. And so I think that he is going to be somebody that also comes in. You lose Santos Ramirez after this year. They recruited pretty well last year at safety, but you've got Cameron Curl coming back after this, and but with Santos leaving, and that's a position that you could always get use more players at. And Miles is a guy, just like him, he can come in and play early.
Yeah, absolutely, and really excited about that secondary and the scheme led by John Chavis. All right, Marcus Miller, a D tackle. Now he's from Warren, in-state guy. I like his size. He's up around 300 pounds.
Yeah, he is. He's a kid that I guess Bo hasn't figured out how to make a receiver. Bo Henry has made he's got a bunch of, it's a Hall of Fame of high school receivers he's had down there. And, but this is a big defensive tackle, kind of comes in and can run. And, he's a guy that can add to that defensive line depth, because that's a position, that defensive front is where they want to play 8, 9, 10 guys. They don't want to just play 4. And he's a guy that can add to the rotation there inside and can bring a lot. Bo was high on him back in the spring. He was very high on Miller, thought he could play, thought he was a sleeper at that time. And then Arkansas was the first to offer him, and then other schools came in, but he decided to be a Razorback, and well, I tell you what, that school has turned them out down there, haven't they?
Yeah. We all know there's such a premium in the SEC on the D-line. And in fact, I go back to the Brett Bielema days at Arkansas. That was one noticeable difference that he always would allude to, and that is the fact that, when he went from the Big Ten to the SEC, is the fact that, you see such a difference in the D-line for SEC teams. Yeah. And now you see under Chad Morris, you bring in Chavis and you bring these other coaches, and you just know there's such an onus on that spot.
Yeah. And you can tell with Chad Morris the way he's recruiting, and right now they've got 14 commitments, and 6 of them are on the defensive line, 9 of them on defense. And they also added Colin Clay this week, and they also, earlier in the week they got, Eric Gregory. Both of those are defensive ends, and so 6 defensive linemen, and they're probably, they're in line to possibly get more there, and they're not cutting it off. They're recruiting, and you got to have a rotation, and especially in the SEC where, 90, 100 degrees on the field. When you kick off that first month or two, it's hot, and you can't just play 4 people. And so they've got to, and they're taking steps to really fix that. And another thing they wanted to do was get taller at defensive end, and they're managing to do that.
All right, let's finish with Enoch Jackson. He's a guy who is certainly on the Arkansas radar. He will decide on Friday. He's out of Mansfield Legacy, a D tackle. But again, what about his process?
Down to Arkansas, Texas Tech, and Clemson. I really like Arkansas's chances there. He was going to do it Sunday at 3 o'clock, but he moved it up just before we came on an hour or so ago. He moved it up to Friday. And I like Arkansas's chances there. Clemson obviously is always a force, but Texas Tech, and anything can change in a week. Things can change in recruiting in 7 seconds, much less 5 or 6 days. So, 5 minutes. So But I think Arkansas is in good shape there, and if you get him, then you've got 4 defensive ends, 3 defensive interior defensive linemen, and I think that's I think that's what they set out to do. And Steve Caldwell and John Scott Jr. are really doing a great job on that defensive line. I know all the coaches are involved in this, but those are the guys that have to coach them, and they're the guys that help sign off on them, and they're really doing a great job.
Like this new staff overall. Otis, thanks much. Appreciate you joining our staff here. Of course, we have Marty Burlsworth in the show as well. Terry Talmadge has that report after this.